You don't notice the exact moment something begins to break. It's like a draft creeping in from a cracked window. Barely there at first, just enough to make you wonder if you imagined it. That's what it felt like with Sarah. Just off. We'd lived in our Denver home for almost 4 years by then. A modest 2-story in the kind of suburb where neighbors wave but don't really talk, where people schedule their lives around school pickup times and HOA meetings. Our house always looked neat from the outside. The inside, that's harder to explain, started one night late. I remember because I had just turned off the last kitchen light and climbed into bed, the kind of tired where your limbs feel like sandbags. Sarah was already under the covers, facing away, her breathing steady but not quite deep enough to be sleep. I didn't think anything of it. We'd both been running on fumes for weeks. Work, bills, more work. The usual grind. I reached across the mattress, like I'd done 100 times before. Not out of passion or even in asterisk Macy. Just instinct. Muscle memory. You reach for your person. But the second I made contact, she flinched. Not dramatically. Not like I'd scared her. But enough. Enough to freeze my arm midair. She pulled her hand away like my touch was an annoyance. Like it broke some rhythm she was in. And she didn't say anything. Didn't even look at me. That alone would have been weird. But then I caught it. The dim, pale blue light, sneaking out from under the comforter. Her phone screen. She was holding it close to her chest, almost buried under the blanket, like she was shielding it from me. I blinked, focused. A notification had just popped up, and in that small window of time before it disappeared, I caught a name. It wasn't a name I recognized. Male name. Simple. Something common like Eric or Ben. I don't even remember exactly now, but I knew it wasn't work-related. She wasn't the type to save colleagues by first name only, and it definitely wasn't one of our friends. I knew all their names. This was someone new, someone not meant for me to see. And yet, she didn't react with surprise or guilt. She just swiped the screen off quickly, gently even, like she'd done it 100 times before. Then she shifted again, curling further away, shoulders tight. Her breathing slowed deliberately, as if she was pretending to fall asleep. I didn't ask her who it was. I didn't say her name. I just laid there, my hand still hovering midair, slowly lowering it back to my side like I was afraid to wake something. The whole room felt different now, heavier, charged. I stared at the ceiling, barely blinking, my eyes adjusting to the dark, listening, thinking, wondering if I'd just witnessed something I wasn't supposed to. Not in the obvious way, not an affair in full bloom, but something beginning, or maybe already well underway. The strange thing is how quickly I began to doubt myself. My brain tried to smooth it over immediately. Maybe it was a coworker. Maybe it was about a project she forgot to mention. Maybe she pulled her hand away because she was tired, not because she didn't want to be touched. That's what love does to you after a few years. It trains you to gaslight yourself before anyone else has to. You learn to build bridges over gaps you should be falling through. But I couldn't unsee the way her body tensed. The way she clutched that phone like it was a secret. The way she went still, not just physically but emotionally. Like a switch had flipped. 1 minute she was present. The next she was somewhere else. With someone else. It was subtle, sure. But it was a signal. And once you notice one, you start realizing you've been seeing them for months. And yet I didn't move. I didn't ask. I didn't accuse. Maybe I was scared of what I'd hear if I did. Instead, I closed my eyes and tried to remember what it used to feel like to fall asleep next to her without wondering who else she might be talking to. But I couldn't. That version of us felt like a house we'd already moved out of. Furniture gone, walls bare, echoes of what used to be. The worst part? I think she knew I saw it. That name. The glow. The way she hid the phone. I think she felt me noticing and decided to say nothing. To let the silence explain everything. Or nothing. It was like the moment I saw too much, she went cold. Like my noticing her lie made me the problem. That's the part that really got to me. Not the name. Not the phone. But the way she didn't flinch because she got caught. She flinched because I interrupted her. Like she'd already moved on to a version of her life where I wasn't in the frame anymore. I was just the leftover presence. The shadow in the background. That night I didn't sleep. Not really. I watched the ceiling fade from night to gray to morning. I heard her alarm buzz and watched her roll out of bed, stretching like it was just any other Tuesday. No words. No eye contact. Just the sound of her shower starting while I laid there, staring at the spot where her phone had been. When she came out, wrapped in her towel, hair wet, she was humming to herself. I hadn't heard her hum in weeks. Months, maybe. She caught my eyes briefly in the mirror and smiled. Tight, polite, manufactured. The kind of smile you give a coworker you barely like. "Morning," she said. "Morning," I replied, trying to sound normal. Then she checked her phone and smiled again. Not at me. At something on that screen. They say hindsight is 20/20ths. But in my case, hindsight didn't just come with clarity, it came with rage. After that night, after I saw her flinch and pull away, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept replaying it in my mind. The glow of the screen, that name, her instinctive silence. But more than that, it was like someone had flipped on a black light and suddenly every invisible stain was glowing. Every weird moment I had dismissed now screamed at me in surround sound. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. That maybe I was overanalyzing everything because of one strange night. But then I started lining things up. Really lining them up. And the pattern wasn't just there. It was staring me in the face like it had been waiting for me to wake up. Sarah had been working late more often, but it wasn't just the hours. It was the way she started getting ready before work like she was going to a casting call. I'd find her standing in the bathroom mirror, applying a little extra mascara or changing earrings 3 times. And when I teased her about it, gently, playfully, she'd brush me off with a dry laugh or a sarcastic quip. There was this stretch of time when she said she was traveling to visit her friend Megan, who lived in Boulder. I didn't question it. I mean, Megan had been her best friend since college. But now, I realized something. I never once saw a text from Megan. Not before, not after. And Sarah never showed me any pictures from those trips, which was strange because she used to take a million. Not just of the places she went, but of the food, her coffee, her outfits. Now nothing. When she came home from those visits, she was always relaxed, almost glowing. She'd hum again, or stretch out on the couch and talk in vague generalities about how it was just so good to catch up. But when I'd ask what they did, she'd pause for a second too long, like she had to load the script, and say something like, "Oh, wine, girl talk, the usual." Her phone never left her side. That's not an exaggeration. Not when she went to the bathroom. Not when she was in the shower. Not when she was asleep. If I moved it to clean the table, she noticed. One night I watched her grab it in her sleep when it buzzed, eyes barely open, then tuck it under the pillow like it was some precious heirloom. And she always kept it face down. Always. One time, I tried to be funny and flipped it over while we were having dinner, pretending to act suspicious in that teasing way couples do when they want to spark a little playful jealousy. I said, "What are you hiding, huh? Tinder matches?" With a grin. She didn't laugh. She snatched the phone so quickly it startled me. Her face went tight. Her jaw flexed. "Don't touch my stuff," she snapped. Just like that. Cold. Defensive. Not playful. Not amused. Like I'd picked up a G**N instead of a phone. I remember that moment vividly because she caught herself a second later, softened her expression, and said, "Sorry. Work stuff. It's just been stressful lately." Then she kissed me on the cheek like that would erase the snap. But it didn't. It echoed. After that, I started noticing other things. New clothes, not a lot, but a few very deliberate pieces. Nothing flashy. Just curated. Like she was dressing for someone who had preferences she wanted to match. She bought a perfume I didn't recognize. I remember hugging her one night and catching a scent that was sharp and floral, expensive. It wasn't the light stuff she used to wear. This one lingered. And then there was the cologne. That one hit differently. One evening, she came home wearing a fleece jacket she'd never worn before. I hugged her from behind, instinctively, as she stood at the counter pouring a glass of wine. I buried my face into the fabric and froze. It wasn't her scent. It wasn't neutral either. It was his. Whoever he was, he wore a bold, musky cologne. Not overpowering, but definitely not mine. And definitely not something that happens from brushing shoulders in a hallway. I remember going still just for a second. She must have felt it because she stiffened too. Then she pulled away, casually, as if she needed to check the oven or her phone. And she didn't come back for that second hug. I didn't say anything. I told myself maybe it was from public transit. From a coworker. Maybe she borrowed someone's jacket at work. Maybe, but the justifications started sounding more and more ridiculous. Even to me. I was performing mental gymnastics just to keep myself from seeing the obvious. Because once you acknowledge the truth, everything changes. You can't go back to believing the story you used to love. And that's what I was still doing, holding on to our narrative like it hadn't been rewritten in secret chapters one wasn't allowed to read. The next week, I went to do laundry. Normally she handles her stuff separately, something she started doing about a year ago. I never thought much of it. But that day, she'd left a gym bag by the washer, and I decided to help out. Not snoop. Not dig. Just be helpful. When I unzipped it, I found a second water bottle, a half-used travel-sized body spray, and a towel that smelled freshly laundered, but not by our detergent. That's when I realized she wasn't going to our gym anymore. At least not consistently. There was a membership tag for a different gym, one in a nearby town, about 25 minutes away. I didn't even know she signed up there. When I asked about it casually that evening, she blinked. "Oh," she said. "Yeah, that one has better classes. You know, more options." That was it. No explanation. No offer to show me the app, the schedule. Just a shrug. She moved on. And I let her. Because every time I got close to digging deeper, something stopped me. Fear. I didn't want to become the guy who starts checking her location, reading her texts, or installing tracking apps like some obsessed character in a bad Netflix show. I didn't want to become that guy. I still wanted to believe that Sarah, the woman I married, wouldn't do something like that. That even if she was unhappy, even if we'd grown distant, she would talk to me. That she would at least try before she burned it all down. But the truth was, I couldn't reach her anymore. She wasn't mean. She wasn't cold, not in the obvious way. But she was gone. Emotionally, she was somewhere else. Her eyes never quite met mine anymore. Conversations became logistical. "How was your day? Can you pick up almond milk? Don't forget the HOA meeting is Thursday." Basic. Transactional. No spark. No softness. No curiosity about me. But she smiled when she texted. Her thumbs flew across the screen like they were dancing. Her expression softened when she scrolled. Her laughter, rare in our conversations, came alive when her phone lit up, and I wasn't part of it. I became a background character in her life. The man who handled the bills, took out the trash, changed the oil, listened to her vent about work, gave her space when she needed it, respected her independence, loved her the same even when I wasn't sure she loved me back. And maybe that was my biggest mistake, thinking that loving someone meant ignoring every sign that they'd already left. Because when the signs started stacking, they weren't subtle anymore. They were screaming. You always think you'll catch them in the act, that there'll be some dramatic moment, something cinematic. Keys in the lock, a heel kicked off too fast, hushed voices in the next room, lipstick on a collar. But the real truth? Infidelity doesn't always scream. Sometimes it shows up as a whisper in a video. I was at work that morning, coffee in hand, half distracted in a Zoom call when I got the message. Came from an unknown number. No text, just a single video file. I clicked before I even thought about it. Curiosity, instinct. Maybe I was hoping it was spam, something random I could delete and laugh off. It wasn't. The footage was shaky, clearly taken from across the street, like someone filming discreetly through their car window. I recognized the place almost instantly. A boutique-style gym in Lakewood, about 30 minutes from where we lived. Sarah had mentioned it once, casually. Said she liked the yoga instructors there. Said it helped clear her head. She never invited me. In the video, she walks out of the building wearing a tight-fitted black athletic set, one I'd never seen before. Her hair is pulled up, and she's laughing. Not just smiling. Laughing, head tilted back, completely present in the moment. Beside her is a man, taller than me, built, sharp jawline. You know the type. They didn't look like strangers. That's what hit me first. The rhythm of how they walked. Matching strides, bodies slightly angled toward each other like there was a magnetic pull keeping them close. And then came the part that made my stomach drop. She reached out and touched his chest. Not flirtatiously, not dramatically, and mately, like it was a habit. Then she said something to him. I couldn't hear what, of course, and smiled again. He nodded, unlocked his car, and she climbed into the passenger seat like she'd done it 1,000 times before. No hesitation, no second glance around to check for who might be watching. Timestamp: 9:18 a.m. Tuesday. 2 days ago. That was the exact morning she told me she was headed to her sister's to help organize a storage unit. I even packed her a coffee thermos and gave her a kiss on the cheek as she left. I watched the video again and again. Every frame confirmed what I'd been suspecting, but also desperately denying for months. The subtle lies, the dodged questions, the shift in mood that never included me. This man wasn't a coworker. He wasn't a friend. He wasn't a stranger. He was the reason. I stared at the screen so long the brightness burned into my eyes. But I couldn't look away, because now I had it, proof. Cold, visual confirmation. And somehow it didn't feel like relief. Felt like grief. Grief for the version of me that still believed her. Grief for the future we used to talk about on quiet nights. The road trips, the remodel we were planning for the guest room, the dog we were always almost ready to adopt. Grief for every moment I second-guessed myself because I wanted so badly to trust the woman I loved. I left work early that day. Didn't tell anyone. Just shut my laptop, walked to my car, and sat in the driver's seat for 10 full minutes trying to decide what to do next. Should I call her? Text her? Confront her that night? Drive to that gym and see if he showed up again? Every option felt like lighting a fuse, and I wasn't sure I had the energy to hold the match. Not yet. So instead, I drove. Aimlessly, with no destination, just trying to calm the noise in my head. I pulled over once at a park and watched a couple walking their dog. The woman reached down to fix her partner's scarf, and he kissed her hand. It was small, but it felt like watching something from another world. One I used to belong to. When I finally made it home, Sarah was already there. In the kitchen, like always, slicing vegetables for dinner. She smiled when she saw me. Hey, you're back early. Yeah, I said, setting my bag down. Slow day. She didn't look suspicious. Not yet. She just nodded, tossed a few onions into the pan, and kept going. I watched her for a moment, the way she moved so normally, like nothing was happening behind the scenes. Like the life she presented here, in this house, in this kitchen, wasn't something she slipped into like a costume before the curtain rose. And suddenly I felt nauseous. I walked upstairs, said I was taking a shower, but I sat on the edge of the bed instead, staring at my phone, replaying the video once more. And this time, I noticed something new. It wasn't just that she got into the car. It was the way she looked back at him before she did. That glance. The way her eyes softened, like she was looking at someone she trusted. Someone she chose. And I realized then that I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't overthinking. I was right. All along, I was right. There's this moment you don't see coming. Not when you find the video, not when you catch the lie, not even when your gut is screaming at you to do something. It comes later, quietly, after the rage fades and the sadness dulls. It comes when you realize you don't want the explanation anymore. You just want out. That's where I found myself. After watching the video one final time that night, timestamp burned into my memory, frame by frame committed to the back of my eyes. I didn't confront Sarah. I didn't rage, didn't cry, didn't ask for a confession or try to catch her in more lies. There was no speech bubbling up inside me, no clever takedown rehearsed in my mind, just a stillness I hadn't felt in weeks. It was like something inside me finally stood up, calmly brushed off the dust and said, Enough. I didn't want the whole truth. I didn't care about who he was, how long it had been going on, or whether she felt guilty. I had crossed the line where knowing more wouldn't bring me peace. It would just give me more to carry. And I was already heavy. That night, I packed a bag. Not a dramatic suitcase or a slam dresser drawer. Just one carry-on. One duffel. A few changes of clothes, my laptop, a pair of running shoes, and the small black Moleskine notebook I used to scribble down thoughts back when things were better, when I still had things I wanted to remember. I moved slowly, carefully, like I didn't want to wake a sleeping animal. Sarah was in the living room watching something on Netflix. The laugh track filtered in from down the hall. A sitcom we used to watch together before it started playing in the background of her phone scrolling. I left my wedding ring on the bathroom sink. No note, no final words, just the ring. The same one I had twisted on my finger through every fight, every apology, every late night spent wondering if we could fix it. The same ring I had slipped on at the altar with hope in my chest. Now, it felt like it belonged to someone else's life. Keys on the counter. Quiet front door. No slammed car door. Just the soft click of me choosing myself. I drove for over an hour without music. Just me and the road. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I had booked a small rental near the edge of the Rockies. A place I'd found earlier that day, half on impulse, half with the feeling that I'd need it soon. It was one of those Airbnb listings that didn't try too hard, 2-bedroom, basic kitchen, clean couch. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. And more importantly, it was not ours. I got there late. The kind of late where the sky is more dark blue than black, and the air has that sharp chill that sneaks up your spine. I carried my bag in, locked the door behind me, and sat down in the middle of the floor, too wired to sleep but too tired to think. For a long time I just stared at the walls. No photos, no framed memories, just beige and blank. I remember thinking how peaceful that felt. Not being surrounded by reminders of a life that had slowly been slipping out from under me. I didn't cry. I thought I might. I kept waiting for the sob to hit me like a wave. But it didn't come. What did come was exhaustion. The kind that doesn't ask permission. The kind that just folds you in like a collapsing tent. I slept on the couch that first night, clothes still on, phone face down on the table. When I woke up, the sun was peeking through the half-closed blinds, and for a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it hit me. I had left, and she didn't even know yet. I checked my phone around noon. 3 missed calls. 1 text. Sarah, where are you? You didn't come home. Are you okay? That was it. No panic. No accusations. Not even a hint of emotion. Just a curious, almost casual line. Like she was checking in on a roommate who forgot to water the plants. I didn't reply. Later that afternoon, another message came in. Sarah, did you take the car? Not, I'm worried. Not, please come back. Not, can we talk? Just, did you take the car? Then another. Sarah, also, did you cancel the joint card? I tried to buy groceries and it declined. There it was. That shift. The focus wasn't on me. Not on the fact that I had disappeared. Not on what I might be feeling, or how things had finally broken beyond repair. No, her concern was transactional. And that told me everything. It wasn't me she missed. It was the life I provided. The routine. The structure. The access. The stability she had treated like a guarantee, while she flirted with someone else's excitement. That night, I sat on the porch of the rental and watched the sun set behind the mountains. The air smelled like pine and dirt and something clean. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. I thought about messaging her. Just one line. Something like, don't worry, I'm alive. I just can't do this anymore. But I didn't. Because deep down, I knew I didn't owe her that. She hadn't extended that same grace to me. She hadn't come to me with the truth when it still might have mattered. She didn't offer me closure when I lay next to her night after night feeling more alone than ever. So I mirrored her silence. And it felt fair. Not spiteful. Not vindictive. Just even. That's the part no one tells you about walking away without confrontation. It hurts in a quieter way, but the wound heals cleaner. No screaming. No begging. No last-minute performances of regret. Just a soft close of the door behind you. And on the other side, stillness. The silence didn't last long. I think part of me expected it to. Some twisted belief that she'd suddenly understand, that my absence would hit her like a realization, like a cold splash of water to the face, that she'd sit alone in that house and finally feel the weight of what she'd done. But that wasn't how it played out. The first day passed with just those few messages, questions, not concern. Logistics, not emotion. I didn't answer any of them. I turned my phone face down and left it there, like I used to watch her do so effortlessly. The irony wasn't lost on me. By the second day, the tone shifted. Sarah, "'Kay, this isn't funny. Where are you?" Funny. That word stuck with me longer than it should have. As if my disappearance was an inconvenience, a disruption to her schedule, a prank that had gone on a little too long. Still, I said nothing. I spent that day hiking a short trail near the rental, letting the altitude burn my lungs and the quiet burn everything else out. I didn't want to be reachable. I wanted the distance to do its work. By the time I got back, there were more messages waiting. "Sarah, I talked to my boss. He hasn't heard from you. Are you staying with someone? This is really immature." Immature. That one almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was familiar. That was her default defense. When she couldn't control a situation, she reframed it as my failure. My emotional immaturity. My inability to communicate. The same script she'd used any time I tried to bring up how distant she'd become. Still, no, I'm sorry. No, did I hurt you? No, please come home. Just irritation that the system wasn't working the way it used to. Later that evening, she tried calling again. I watched the phone light up on the table, vibrate once, then stop. I didn't answer. I didn't send it to voicemail either. I just let it ring until the screen went dark again. An hour later, another message came through. "Sarah, did you seriously cancel the rent draft?" The leasing office called. There it was. The real panic. Not about me. Not about us. But about consequences. About friction. About the safety net unraveling. I canceled the automatic payments that morning. Rent. Utilities. Shared subscriptions. Everything that quietly ran in the background of her life. Everything she'd stopped thinking about because she assumed I always would. I hadn't done it out of spite. I'd done it because I was done pretending we were still a unit. Her response confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't missing me. She was missing what I provided. That night, she started calling other people. I found out later, from my sister first, then a mutual friend. Sarah had reached out under the guise of concern, but it didn't take long for the real questions to surface. "Have you heard from him? Do you know where he might have gone? Did he say anything about leaving? Not is he okay? Not is he safe?" Just logistics again. Damage control. Trying to locate the missing piece in a machine she didn't know how to operate without me. My sister told me Sarah sounded frustrated more than scared, confused more than heartbroken, like someone locked out of their house, rattling the doorknob, annoyed that the key wasn't working. On the third day, the messages changed again. "Sarah, can we please talk? This is getting out of hand. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're blowing everything up." That one hit differently. Because she was right about one thing, something was blown up. But it wasn't the marriage. It was the illusion. The illusion that she could live a double life without consequences. That she could drift emotionally, lie selectively, and still rely on me to anchor everything else. That I'd always be there, quietly holding things together while she explored something new. She wasn't panicking because she lost me. She was panicking because she lost control. That distinction mattered more than any confession ever could. By day 4, she stopped texting and showed up in person. I wasn't expecting it. Not that soon. I was standing in the kitchen of the rental, half awake, coffee going cold on the counter, when I heard a knock at the door. Not tentative, not hesitant, firm, insistent. I looked through the window first, saw her car parked out front, saw her standing there, arms crossed tight against her chest, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky. She looked smaller. Not physically, emotionally, like someone stripped of the confidence they'd been wearing like armor. Still put together, hair done, clothes intentional, but the posture was off. Shoulders tight, jaw clenched. I opened the door. We just stood there for a moment. She took off her sunglasses, eyes red, rimmed with exhaustion more than tears. "Hey," she said. I nodded. That was it. No hug, no rush forward, no apology spilling out of her mouth. Just a hey, like we'd run into each other at the grocery store. She glanced past me into the rental, taking in the unfamiliar space, the absence of shared history. "You couldn't at least tell me where you were?" she asked. Not angrily, not softly, just annoyed. Hurt, maybe, but not in the way she wanted me to believe. "I figured you'd notice eventually," I said. She exhaled sharply. "That's not fair." I almost laughed at that. Fair. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, not inviting her in. She noticed. Her eyes flicked to the handle, then back to me. "You're not even going to let me come inside?" she asked. I shook my head. "There's nothing for you in there." She swallowed. "So that's it? You just disappear? No conversation, no explanation?" I held her gaze. Calm, steady. "You didn't give me one when you checked out," I said. "I just followed your lead." That's when it finally landed. Not all at once, but enough. Her face cracked, just slightly. Not into sobs, not into remorse, but into realization. She reached out, fingers brushing my arm. "I didn't think you'd actually leave," she said quietly. And there it was. The truth. Not, "I didn't mean to hurt you." Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "I didn't think you'd go." I nodded once. "Neither did I," I said. Then I stepped back, opened the door, and went inside. I didn't lock it. I didn't have to. The next day she came back. No sunglasses, no rehearsed tone. Just red eyes, trembling hands, and that look people wear when they realize too late that something's really gone. I opened the door, said nothing. She started to speak, but I didn't let her. Just one nod. The same one she gave me months ago when I reached for her and she pulled away. No anger, no revenge, just stillness. She stood there like she was waiting for permission to rewind, to explain. But there was nothing to explain anymore. The damage wasn't just done. It had settled. Grown roots. She kept whispering, "Can we talk?" As if there was still a we to save. But I had already walked through the pain and found peace on the other side. I didn't close the door in her face. I just left it open behind me as I turned and walked away. That silence, her silence, had taught me how to let go. She had reached out. Finally. But too late. That was the pattern. When I needed her, she turned away. When she needed me, I was gone. I didn't lock the door behind me. I didn't slam it. I just left it open the same way she left questions unanswered. Nights unexplained. Moments unreciprocated. She had taught me that silence holds power. But unlike her, I didn't use it to punish. I used it to protect. There was no scene, no cruel words, no dramatic goodbye. Just a shared memory hanging in the air. The night I reached out and she recoiled. And now, here we were again, roles reversed. My nod was the only closure I owed her. The gesture we both understood. One last mirror held up to what we'd become. And as I walked further away, the quiet didn't hurt. It healed. She had taught me how to disappear without slamming doors. I had simply learned to do it better.